Not a new year, a new standard. Don't call this a new year. Call it what it really is, a line between who you were and who you now refuse to be. You've made promises before, big ones, loud ones, on paper, at midnight. But promises don't keep people. Standards do. And a Stoic doesn't begin with hope. He begins with structure. He doesn't chase a goal. He becomes the kind of man who doesn't need to chase. So don't write resolutions, write reminders, not run more. But move with intention, not quit bad habits. But train the mind to resist ease. This isn't a reset. It's a return to something stronger than motivation. Discipline. Not the loud kind, not the aesthetic kind, but the one that wakes before sunrise without applause. Because in a world that changes fast, the one who wins is the one who doesn't have to. He just shows up, the same, sharp, still, unmoved. And that is the only habit worth keeping. Start small, stay sharp. The Stoics didn't preach transformation. They practiced trajectory. Not how far, but how straight. Not how fast, but how consistent. They knew the power of a small act done daily, deliberately, without noise. Because nothing weakens the soul like chasing massive change while ignoring tiny corrections. One breath, one thought, one no to comfort, one step toward discomfort. These are the bricks stacked in silence, until one day you look up and see a wall that protects your peace. Most people wait for big shifts. The Stoic sharpens his edge, one scratch at a time. So don't underestimate the habit that looks too small to matter. Waking without your phone, pausing before you speak, cleaning one drawer, stretching for 5 minutes, writing one sentence of truth. That's not weakness, that's the blueprint. Because discipline isn't built in the days that impress others, it's built in the mornings no one sees. The Stoic doesn't need a breakthrough. He just needs a knife that never dulls. So start small and keep sharpening every day, no matter how you feel, until your edge speaks louder than your words. Anxiety isn't strategy. The mind will tell you, if you worry enough, you'll be ready. That if you plan more, predict more, anticipate every possible failure, you'll be safe. But that's not strategy, that's survival mode. And the Stoic didn't survive. He stood. He didn't prepare through panic. He prepared through principle. Because when fear leads, you follow shadows. When clarity leads, you follow choices. So when your thoughts start racing, pause. Zoom out. Ask, is this fear or foresight? Is this useful or just noise? Because not every thought deserves a response. Not every feeling deserves a seat. The world doesn't reward those who imagine every outcome. It rewards those who act in the face of not knowing. So practice this. Breathe once, slow, decide, move. Let the fear be background. Let the mission be front and center. Anxiety is loud, but purpose doesn't need to shout. And the one who moves in silence will always move faster than the one stuck rehearsing their collapse. You don't need more worry. You need fewer interruptions between thought and action. That's the Stoic way. Think less, move cleaner. Routine is rhythm. Most people wake up and wait for direction, from a message, from a screen, from someone else's urgency. But the Stoic doesn't wait, he builds. A morning, a rhythm, a return to center before the world arrives. Because routine is not about control, it's about stability. When chaos comes, and it will, your habits decide whether you bend or break. Your routine is your rhythm. Your rhythm is your anchor. So make it sacred, not fancy, not long, just uncompromising. Wake up at the same time, write what you don't say, move your body, take silence before scroll. Read what sharpens, not what distracts. And when life pulls, return to it. Like breath, like gravity, like a compass that still points north, even when you don't. The Stoic doesn't drift because he's grounded in repetition. Repetition that doesn't entertain, it clears. So build your rhythm, let it hold you, let it remind you. Peace isn't found in breaks, it's found in patterns. You refuse to break. Order yourself to stop. The problem isn't always doing too little. Sometimes it's doing too much. Too many tabs, too many tasks, too many thoughts bleeding into each other without a break. The Stoics knew motion without intention is a kind of madness. That's why they practiced the most overlooked discipline: stopping. Not from failure, not from burnout, but by command. At any moment, you can say enough, and the world won't end. The mission won't shatter. The moment will just breathe. That's what most people miss. They don't run out of time, they run out of focus. Because they never told themselves, stop scrolling, stop reacting, stop thinking about things that won't matter in a week. A Stoic doesn't collapse from doing too much. He collapses the non-essential with one decision. And when he stops, he doesn't explain. Because control isn't always acceleration. Sometimes, it's the brake that keeps you from drifting off the edge. So today, practice this. Say stop. Say it early, say it often. Then return to the thing that actually moves you forward. Still, sharp, uncluttered. Your time is bleeding. You don't feel it, but it's happening. Every scroll, every second guessing, every conversation you didn't need to have. Bleeding, not in gallons, but in drops. Tiny, silent, deadly. The Stoics saw time as blood. Once spilled, it doesn't return. That's why they guarded it. Like warriors. Seneca said, "You act like mortals in all that you fear and like immortals in all that you desire." You fear death, but waste your minutes like they grow back. They don't. So track it. Not with apps, with awareness. Where does your attention go when no one is watching? Where does your mind run when silence stretches longer than you're used to? Who takes your time without earning it? What steals your focus without apology? These aren't habits, they're leaks. And a Stoic plugs the leak before he builds another system. Because you can't master the day if your minutes bleed out without your consent. So carry time like it's weight. Speak less, switch slower, decide faster. Every hour is a vein. Protect it before it runs dry. Do one hard thing on purpose. The Stoic doesn't wait to be tested. He walks toward the edge, daily, quietly, on purpose. Not because he loves pain, but because he knows comfort kills readiness. You want clarity, you want calm, you want a mind that doesn't spiral. At the first sign of stress, then practice it. Do something hard every day, before the world forces you to. Make the water cold, make the lift heavy, make the silence longer, make the task boring, and finish it anyway. Discomfort is not a punishment, it's preparation. Every time you choose the hard thing, you train your nervous system to stop flinching. And the man who stops flinching becomes impossible to move. So stop waiting to feel ready. Readiness is built in the places you avoid. That's what Stoicism is. Not philosophy, but exposure to friction, to silence, to that moment when your body says quit and your will says stay. No one sees it, no one claps for it. But that's the point. It's not for them. It's for the part of you that refuses to stay soft. So today, do one hard thing, not to prove, but to prepare. And tomorrow, you'll walk through the storm like someone who's been there before. Upgrade your circle. You don't rise by shouting louder, you rise by standing next to those who don't need to. Because energy leaks through people. The anxious, the aimless, the ones who make you doubt the standards you once held firm. The Stoics didn't collect followers. They walked with mirrors, people who reflected their clarity, people who didn't flatter but forged. So look around. Who sharpens your mind by how they move in silence? Who holds their time like something sacred? Who challenges your softness without speaking a word? That's your circle. Not those who agree, but those who align. And sometimes, to upgrade your life, you need to upgrade your proximity. Not in hate, but in honor. You weren't meant to shrink to keep someone else comfortable. You weren't built to stay at tables where the conversation steals your fire. Walk away. Quietly. Finally. Without bitterness, without needing to be understood. Because the man who protects his center will always attract those who have one. Your circle is not decoration. It's direction. Guard it like it decides where your life is headed. Stop resisting change. Change doesn't knock, it enters. With or without your permission, with or without your readiness. Most people resist it, clench up, hold tight, try to keep what's already leaving. But the Stoic doesn't freeze, he flows, not by surrender, but by strength. Because control isn't keeping things the same, it's staying the same. When things around you move, so stop fighting the shift, stop mourning the version of life that's already expired. Let it fall, let them go. Let the identity you outgrew dissolve. What matters now is not what stays, but who you are when everything else doesn't. Marcus said, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." So choose to move, with the current, with the wind, with your spine straight and your center intact. You don't need to cling, you need to trust that what breaks was never meant to carry you further. That's the Stoic way. Not to control the shape of life, but to become the shape that no change can bend. So when change comes next time, don't panic, don't stall, just whisper, "I was made for this." Decline the non-essential. The world won't stop asking. More meetings, more content, more messages, more chances to say yes to things that mean nothing. And if you don't decide what matters, everything will. That's why the Stoic didn't start his day with a to-do list. He started with a filter. What's essential? What aligns? What gives more than it takes? If it doesn't, decline, with no guilt, with no explanation, with the full weight of a man who knows that time is life. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. You waste it when you carry conversations that go nowhere, when you agree to projects that steal your focus, when you say sure because it's easier than no. But easier is how clarity dies. So learn to decline, softly, cleanly, repeatedly. Your peace is not made from what you say yes to. It's built from what you protect. And the strongest men aren't the ones who can do everything. They're the ones who know what to walk past without looking back. Return to rhythm. You will fall, you will forget, you will break your own rule at the worst possible time. That doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. The Stoic didn't seek perfection, he practiced return. Not to guilt, not to punishment, but to rhythm. The rhythm he built when no one watched, when no one needed it, when only his soul was listening, because that rhythm is a home. And when the world spins too fast, it's the only place that doesn't move. So when you miss the gym, return. When you scroll too long, return. When you speak from ego, return. When you lose your edge, return. The strength isn't in never falling, it's in never staying lost. Set the rhythm, keep it sacred. Let it outlive your emotion, and no matter what hits, let your return be faster than your collapse. Still, unshaken, aligned again, because the Stoic isn't unbreakable. He's just undecaying. He forgets, but he never forsakes. And that's the habit that carries them all. Don't set goals, set gravity. You don't need more plans, you need pull. A force inside that brings you back even when you're tired, even when you're late, even when no one is watching. That's what these habits are. Not tasks, not hacks, but gravity, built slowly, carved deeply in silence. Because the Stoic doesn't chase fire, he carries a flame. And every time he returns to the small, he becomes immovable in the big. So don't perform discipline. Be drawn to it. The same way the tide knows when to rise, and the blade knows when to still. Make your habits heavier than your excuses. Make your rhythm stronger than your guilt. Make your return faster than your collapse. And let this year be less about becoming new and more about becoming true, not louder, just deeper. Because in the end, stillness isn't what you practice, it's what you become.